Good afternoon. Welcome to Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network. Tuesday, November 14th, Frank Granito in studio alongside Kevin Coleman. Lots to cover today. The boys soccer season in the FCX has officially come to an end. We've got state semifinals for girls volleyball, girls soccer, field hockey. 9 FCX schools still in contention. Viva la stool, man. Got it on the mind. 9 FCX schools still in contention. And we'll look ahead to next week's Turkey Bowl as the countdown is officially on to the battle for exit 37. Kev, big day yesterday. Norwalk, the last remaining FCX boys soccer team, they took on Naugatuck. The game went to overtime. First of all, it settled on a PK in the 82nd minute. I know we talked about this a little bit. I still haven't seen the play, but I am dumbfounded as to how a referee finally had the audacity, and I'm going to use the word audacity, to pull the whistle out of the pocket and blow for a PK in extra time of the state semifinals.
Well, the foul must have been good enough for the head official to make the call. And from what I keep hearing, from the highlights that I've seen, Norwalk was the better team. And you look back, this Naugatuck team, they deserve to go. And their goalie kept them in that game. They're the reason why they're going on to that final, because those right after Naugatuck scored that PK, what does Norwalk do? Freddie Rosales takes his team all the way down the field, inside the 6-yard box. The goalie makes 2 saves in a row, one with his hands, one with his feet.
Well, it wasn't even the goalie. It was one of the defenders came from the back post and denied that Echeverria opportunity.
And again, if that goes in, we're talking about a different game. Maybe Norwalk is going to the final, but Norwalk can't hang their heads too much. And what I liked was at the end of the game, the seniors led this team on a victory lap around the field, just kind of saying thank you to the parents, their families, and their friends, and everyone who came to support them throughout the season. They posted a really nice photo actually on Twitter, just saying thank you to everyone for their support. They made a great run, and you look back at that FCX tournament, Frank. That semifinal between Greenwich and Norwalk, I said to myself, going into this game, whoever wins this game between Greenwich and Norwalk is going to win the FCX final.
Yeah.
And Greenwich ended up winning, winning against Norwalk. What did they do? They beat Norwalk in the final. And I really do think if Norwalk was able to edge out a Greenwich team like that, they're going to win that final against Trumbull. So they can't hang their heads too much. I know this is a tough feeling for these seniors because that's it for them. And they gave it their all, especially in this state tournament, because a lot of people didn't expect this number 20 seed to go all the way to the semifinals.
All the way to the semifinals. They fall to the eventual number 1 seed. Naugatuck now in the championship will face Glastonbury. I think a lot of us expect the Indians as heavy favorites in that game. But Kevin's going to tell me otherwise.
I don't know. You got to look at Glastonbury. This team is going to their 9th
That's
final.
What I'm talking about. I'm talking about Glastonbury.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Naugatuck. My apologies.
I'm on board with Glastonbury.
Yes.
No, Glastonbury for sure. But we talked a little bit about, nothing for Norwalk to hang their head on. Truly a tremendous season. They're the last standing team of the FCX. That does not go without being noticed, Kevin. So now my question for you, and we can really dive in, break down this FCX boys soccer season. Who do you think the biggest winner of the season was? Out of all the teams, obviously Greenwich winning the FCX championship, that's going to hold a lot of water to their case. But who was the one team you think really surpassed expectations, came away with the most, and at the end of this is extremely proud, happy, and is going to remember this season?
I think it's a tie, actually. Is that okay?
That's fair.
I have to give it to Greenwich and Norwalk, because Greenwich, they are co-champions in 2016 with Trumbull. They graduate 23 seniors. And going into this season, there are a lot of question marks. Head coach Kurt Putnam, I'm sure he thought to himself, what am I going to get out of this unit this year? What happens? They go out and had a great year. They go into the FCX tournament as number 2 seed. And what happens? They win the FCX tournament. They beat Trumbull again in a rematch. And they were the much better team in that FCX final. They could have won that game 4-5-0 if they wanted to. Great saves by Andrew Menjivar of Trumbull. Got to give him credit. But again, I thought Greenwich had a fantastic season after bouncing back from being co-champions in 2016 and graduating 23 seniors. Now for Norwalk, a team that overcame a lot and has to feel very proud of themselves. I know head coach Chris Lawton has to feel very proud of his team, because losing the semifinals of the FCX tournament against a team like Greenwich, it's tough. And those are 2 fantastic teams. Unfortunately, one team has to go to the next round. One team has to go home. And that team was Greenwich. They move on. Greenwich goes home. They get ready for states. And what happens? They go on a great run in states, and they go all the way to the semifinals. They take the #1 seed all the way to double overtime. You have to feel so proud. I know today is really tough for these guys, especially the seniors and a lot of the other players on this team, and for Coach Chris Lawton. But I think once they look back at 2017, they have to feel so proud of what they overcame.
It really puts the right foot forward for the program, but you look at not only did they take on the #1 seed and take them all the way to 2 overtimes, but you defeated the #1 team in the FCAC as well in the quarterfinals. You came away with a double OT win. You took down Fairfield Ward, in the second round there. You knocked off the #13 team in the first round. It was a great state run for the Bears. I think, and you talk about it being a tie, here's the way I look at it for you. Greenwich in the FCAC tournament, far and away the best team playing in that tournament. In the state tournament, I think that Norwalk was the best FCAC team participating in that tournament. That's fair to say?
It's fair to say because, look at what happened at Greenwich. They had to go face Farmington. They got dealt a tough matchup in the quarterfinals. It happens in this tournament. You face the best teams in the state, and they were at that bottom part of the bracket. They had to face some tough opponents, and they got knocked out. And what did Norwalk do? They went on and had some great wins throughout this tournament. Didn't have a bye to begin with. They went all the way to the first round to the semifinals. Greenwich, it's just difficult because they ran into a really tough team like Farmington. Ended up being on the losing end, but again, a great year. But
they held their own against Farmington too. We talked about that game back last Thursday, and I thought for sure that was a Farmington team that would roll the Cardinals. 2 or 3 goal victory against the Cardinals. Greenwich kept it to 1-0, a very tight game. Trumbull, another really good showing this year.
How about Danbury?
That was who I was going to say next. Again, Danbury, Coach Anthony Howard is doing such a great job there. You just get that feeling they're one step away, one break away from finding themselves in one of these really big championship games with an opportunity to bring home a title. Next year will be interesting, and I know it's way too far ahead, but they're going to lose a lot of key players and a lot of big leaders off this roster. A heavy chunk of these role players now. Some of the sophomores and juniors who have contributed a lot, they're going to have to step up, and it'll be interesting to see how they adapt to being the leaders of this team.
You're right, and next year is going to be an interesting year because I really do think that you look at a team like Danbury, I think that's a team that bounces back. They lose a lot, but I think that's a program that's going to be okay in 2018, as well as Trumbull. Okay. Trumbull has a deep, deep roster with some good young players coming.
I agree. I think Trumbull was back in the championship a year earlier than expected, and it was a tremendous job done this year after losing as much as they did. For me, the big team to keep an eye on that I'm going to be concerned about is Norwalk.
Yes.
They have some players coming back, but you lose that core, essentially, those guys who have really helped the program get to where it is right now. And it's similar to Danbury. How do they continue on? How does this legacy continue to move forward now? So they're an interesting squad. On the other end of the spectrum, hold on, while we're still talking about teams that were very, very impressive this year, Trinity Catholic deserves a lot of credit. Tremendous season for Trinity. I thought they did a great, great job, and their head coach too, named Coach of the Year, very well deserved for Coach Mike.
Well, look at that, 3 wins after not winning a game last year. This is a massive bounce back season for Trinity.
Sure that's more games than they've won in the past 10 years combined.
Yes, yes. And that's a huge win. It's good for this program because you have younger kids, not only in middle school, but elementary school that are playing or looking to go to Trinity Catholic. They're seeing an uptick in the soccer program at Trinity. So this is a good sign for the Crusaders and their boys soccer program.
On the other end of the spectrum, all right, disappointments. Who do you think missed the boat this year and are going to be hanging their heads wishing they could have a do-over on a couple of opportunities?
It's the Richfield Tigers. Plain and simple. I know they lose those first 2 games of the season, and they get JT Ciano back from injury, and they go on a roll. He scores 20 goals this year. By far one of the probably the best player in the FCAC, and most dominant player maybe even in RHS boys soccer program history. I mean, this kid absolutely killed it this year. It's disappointing because they get to the FCAC tournament as the 1 seed, and they lose to Danbury, which Danbury deserved to win. Richfield did not deserve to win that game at all. They were lazy. They didn't play well. They were complacent, especially those first 2 halves. Overtime, they just didn't show up. What did Danbury do? They score, and they go on. This is at Tiger Hall, by the way. This is at home for Richfield. This is supposed to be a game that they're going to take care of the Hatters. Hatters come in there, and I'm proud of the Hatters for doing that because they came in and took care of business. And look what happens. Richfield gets knocked out, and the one thing that annoyed me, Frank, and I touched upon it lightly, the things that they said after that game really got to me. The fact that they said, oh, we don't care about FCX. How could you say that? How could you go to someone, a reporter, and say that? It's unbelievable. As a former player in the program, I'm disgusted by it. And listen, I still would like to have a strong relationship with this program, but after what I heard from not only the players, but from Coach Phil Bergen, unbelievable. I was baffled by what he said after that game. And then, you know, they made a good run in the state tournament, but again, losing to Norwalk in double overtime. Norwalk deserved to win the game too.
I agree, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I think it's a Norwalk team that Ridgefield was better than most of the year, and it was a game again at home that they probably should have won. Keyword being should have. Whether or not, you know, and I agree, Norwalk probably on that day the better team, but it's a game they should have won. For me, and I know this is probably going to come off in the worst possible way, I think it was very disappointing, the Darien squad this year. Yeah. And I don't know that it was as big of a letdown as the Ridgefield Tigers, who you get to that postseason and almost fall flat on your face, to use a poorly used term there, but Darien just horribly underachieved this year, I thought. I think when we went on the FCX tour and we met with those captains, we felt this was a team that could be in contention, should be in the hunt. They were ready to bounce back this year. 3-10-3 this season, and it's just, they did not play well for a large chunk of the year and were never really in a position to be successful.
Right, and it was tough for Darien because they lost a lot of seniors due to graduation. It was tough for them because they lost a lot. This is a team that didn't really find their stride till probably the last 2 to 3 weeks of the season. And that's when they started to find their stride. And they actually, played the better teams pretty well. They beat Staples. They tied Ludlow to end the season. So it was a good ending. And just quickly, I got to add this, Frank, and I know I might get some repercussions for this, but Coach Phil Bergen, is this as good as it gets? Because it's not good enough. 2007 was a long time ago. 2012, you won an FCX title. You didn't even kick off in that game. Yes, you won a state title and you deserved it, but is this as good as it gets? It needs to be better because I know 2016 was a rebuilding year. This was the year. I want to see what you got in 2018.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the Tigers bounce back. They announced the 2017 All-FCX squad for soccer this morning. Stick with us through the break. Kevin's got a couple more hot takes when we get back.
New Canaan Foreign Car. Yes, New Canaan Foreign Car has been servicing all makes of foreign cars for over 50 years. We also buy, sell, and consign cars too. We can help you with all your automotive needs from service to sales. Call us at 203-966-2681.
At Portofino Restaurant and Wine Bar in Bethel, fresh and simple food is our concept. Owned and operated by brothers Rocco and Louie, Portofino has a distinct and diverse food and drink menu. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Come join us for live local music on Tuesdays and Sundays, Wednesday nights for mouthwatering prime rib, and every Thursday night is ladies' night. Planning a party? All our catering menus are personalized to suit your event and your budget. Join us at the Dolan Plaza, 213 Greenwood Ave, Bethel, and call us at 203-797-8131. Like us on Facebook.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Kevin Coleman putting a wrap on this FCI boys soccer season. The Norwalk Bears, the final team still in play, eliminated last night. Congrats again to all of the teams. We also want to offer congratulations to all of the players who were named to the all-conference list this morning. You can find it at fciac.net as it was released earlier today. But Kevin, again, and I know I'm kicking the dead horse here, but I've got issues. 25 players on the first team for all FCIAC this year. Come on, man.
It's ridiculous.
25?
We talked about it last week. Maybe our voices will be heard, maybe not. But I think there needs to be, like we said for girls soccer, a starting 11. Yeah. Make it a starting 11 for the best starting 11 in the FCIAC. Don't make it 25. That's ridiculous. Make it a starting 11 because we mentioned it last week.
You got 4 goalies on this list.
You got 4 goalies.
4 goalies on this list.
Half those players aren't playing. If you field that team, half those players aren't playing. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous.
16 schools had a player on the first team. That's bizarre to me. 16 schools had a player on the first team. It's no disrespect, but I mean, New Canaan, Trinity Catholic, St. Joseph. St. Joseph is the one school that didn't. Brian McMahon right now, Darien, did they really deserve to have a player on the first team? I don't know that they're okay, and I'll go right after it. New Canaan here you had selected was Alex Zarikos. I think Zarikos was far and away the best player for the Rams this year, had a great year, was not one of the top, what would you say, we'll give it top 3 strikers in the conference. That seems fair.
I think the top 2 strikers have to be JT Ciano.
3-4-3. That seems like like the appropriate one. That's the formation. I'll go 3-4-3. I'll allow 2 goalies, and I'll give you 2 swing guys.
Yeah.
13 players on a team.
Let them each play a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the top 2 strikers have to be JT and Sebastian.
Absolutely. Yes. Maybe Federico Irigoyen from Greenwich. Maybe.
He was dominant, but I thought at times he was also good when he kind of floated back to the center of the field.
Okay, so you want to throw him in the midfield?
Yeah, I'd throw him and Martin Garcia. I thought those 2 in the middle for Greenwich, absolutely filthy for the Cardinals, especially Martin Garcia, who was named FCIAC MVP in the finals. Martin Garcia well deserves first team. This guy just absolute playmaker for the Cardinals. You look throughout this list. Jonathan Gomes, too, I like for Central. I thought at the time we saw him for the Hilltoppers.
I agree. He was productive all year. I think
great.
you could definitely make the argument. Jason Weinstein, there's another striker for you. Does he get the nod, or is just Weinstein a second-team player?
Because he's right up there with JT and Sebastian.
But again, and listen, I think this is the issue you're running into now is it's maybe even less the inclusivity we were thinking last week, Kevin, and some people are afraid of hurting feelings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which there is nothing wrong with being named to the second team in this conference. Arguably one of the most competitive conferences in the state across the board, no matter what sport you're talking about. But again, I think you're losing the value of being an all-conference player if everyone is an all-conference player. That's the big issue that I have here.
Right, and I think this is something I've been thinking about throughout the season because of how tight each game was and how the standings were, especially down at the end of the year, that last week, how crazy it was, especially those last 2 spots to get in. You got to think that throughout these last maybe 5 to 10 years, this has to be at the top of the list as one of the most competitive years in FCIAC boys soccer because 1 through 8, I mean,
very balanced.
Very balanced. A lot of good. Even the teams that didn't make it, even like a West Hill who was bounced out. Even you look at throughout the list, Central. I mean, I know they had a bit of a rough year, but they had some talent in that team too. One of the most competitive years in boys soccer that I've been a part of, and I think the entire FCIAC and state has seen, probably in the last 5 to 10 years.
Goalie, who would you have given it to if you could pick 2 off the top of your head?
James Johnson is one. I got to give it to Menjivar. The 2 that made it to the FCIAC final. I thought Menjivar was great in the FCIAC tournament. I thought he was stellar against Ludlow. He made some great saves in that FCIAC quarterfinal for Trumbull. I got to give it to Menjivar and James Johnson.
I think I would have gone Mullen-Thiel over Menjivar.
Mullen-Thiel is a good pick, too. I think those 3 certainly have the case to be top 3. Mullen-Thiel, if he's not there, I don't think Danbury's making the playoffs.
Yeah, that's really what it is for me. And, maybe that becomes too much of a MVP type argument versus, being an all-league selection. But I think, too, Danbury struggled offensively for a heavy portion of this year, and that was why the numbers for Mullen-Thiel
Right, and that's
could potentially both. But again, it doesn't matter. All 3 players are on the list,
right.
and I just think that's a disservice there. I do, and I'm sorry that if it comes off as get off my lawn and I'm that old time guy, but no, I
agree with you.
You could have a first team player at every position, offer 2 goalie spots. I believe that's realistic. 3 swing positions, those extra guys who, yes, they got the nod. That's 14 spots. That's more than enough. Do the same for a second team, and then you can do your honorable mentions.
Yes.
And listen, for me, it becomes, okay, does every school absolutely get to have an all-FCIAC selection? Because if that were the case, then use the honorable mentions for that. It's no disrespect to any of these programs, these athletes, but come on.
No, it really, because we go back to what we talked about last week with the girls. It has to be a starting 11. You look at the pro level, that's what they do. I think it's a good format at the end of each season because it's much more of a tighter race. So a lot of these players are going to, it's a good mention. It's something that you're proud of at the end of each year. I know you want to win titles as well, but when you get an honorable mention like being the starting 11 of the FCIAC, that's got to be a good feeling. And that's something that Dave Stewart, if you're listening or watching.
I don't think it's his call, though, unfortunately.
But still.
Dave Schultz.
All right, Dave Schultz. All right, Dave Schultz. We'll have a chat. Starting 11, boys and girls soccer next year, 2018. Mark it down.
It'll be really interesting. Kev, we got to take one more break here. When we get back, though, we've got semifinal games still going on in the state tournament. 9 FCX schools we want to bring up. Plus, we'll give you our first look ahead to next Thursday, Thanksgiving, the Turkey Bowl. It's next. Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network.
The Kitchen Center offers quality cabinetry and affordable pricing. Visit our showroom for a free consultation with our professional design staff. For all your other home improvement needs, visit Northeast Building Supply, our full-service lumberyard and window showroom. The Kitchen Center, a division of Northeast Building Supply, 1470 Barnum Avenue, Bridgeport.
Dr. Stephen Molinaro and Peter Healy of Family Practice Dentistry and Laser Dental Care have served Ridgefield for over 22 years. Experienced staff offer gentle drillless techniques, preventative care, and cosmetic procedures in a relaxed environment. Grateful for the community's trust and support through the years, new patients and their families are welcome. Call today.
Yeah, Dad.
Kyle, I need you to update the financial statements.
I took care of that yesterday, Dad.
Mac, I need you to get those deals approved.
They're all done, Mr. Miller.
Jeff, I need you to order lunch for the meeting. They can't do a thing without me.
Right now, lease a 2017 Sentra S for only $97 a month.
I'm never going to retire.
Bankwell combines the best personalized service with high-tech banking features for our customers' convenience. We pride ourselves on being a strong community partner. You don't settle for average in anything else you do. Why settle for an average bank? Don't just bank when you can bank well instead. Visit mybankwell.com for more. Manfredi New Canaan is celebrating 3 exceptional years selling Rolex watches and fine jewelry to the Fairfield County community. We appreciate all our loyal clients and look forward to welcoming and helping you discover the perfect gift to celebrate life's most important occasions.
At Galt, we always put you first. As your full-service home heating partner, we provide expert delivery, installation, and maintenance for all your heating needs with knowledgeable, friendly professionals that give you peace of mind 24/7. Galt Family Companies, you first since 1863. At Galt, we always...
Back on the HAN Network, Frank Granito, Kevin Coleman. We're looking at the semifinals of FCX schools still remaining. Let's start with girls volleyball, Kevin. The FCX champion Greenwich Cardinals are still in contention. Tomorrow, they'll play at Bunnell. They take on number 2 Southington. You've got to love the way the Cardinals are playing right now. Ever since really the start of October, they've been perfect since the start of October, and they've just looked so good doing it. I don't care who they're matched up with. I feel good about Greenwich right now in that tournament.
Oh, you have to feel good about Greenwich. I think if you're Southington, can't take this Cardinal team too lightly because look how dominant they've been. You look back at that FCIAC final. It's weeks away now, and I'm still in awe of what I saw from the Cardinals against the Cadets because I don't think anyone expected what the Cardinals did that Saturday afternoon. Just demolished the Cadets, the number 1 seed, in 3 straight sets. So the Cardinals certainly, as a 6 seed going up against the number 2 seed, have a great chance of booking their tickets to the final.
In Class M, St. Joe's, the #1 seed in that bracket. They're at it today at 5 o'clock. I don't expect the Cadets to run into any problems in that tournament. They're just playing so well right now. They've had that one little hiccup against the FCX foe in Greenwich. I think they're going to roll through and come out a state champion in that tournament. Oh,
I agree. I think they're going to be dominant here in this tournament. Go to that final, take care of business, kind of redeem themselves after not getting that FCX title and bring home another state championship to St. Joe's.
This is where you get into the fun stuff. You've got 2 tournaments remaining with 3 FCX schools in the semifinal. First worth mentioning in Class M, New Canaan, the #8 seed in field hockey. They are playing against Brantford today. That game's at Trumbull at 4 o'clock. They'll look to repeat as field hockey champions this season. In Class L, though, Kev, Darien gets #1 Enfield. Darien playing so well right now. I actually believe that Norwalk might have been their toughest test in that tournament. They survived the Bears on the road in overtime. I think they can handle #1 Enfield, who escaped Ludlow 1-0. Then you got Staples Greenwich on the other side, potentially looking at an all-FCX championship.
Well, we talked about yesterday on Nutmeg how funny it is that Staples and Greenwich get to meet again. The rivals meet in the semifinals of states. That's going to be a really fun matchup. And I agree. I think Darien, as the 5 seed, has a great chance of knocking down the top seed at Enfield because this is a team that, coming off a 1-0 an emotional win against Norwalk like that, that's got to feel very good for this Blue Wave team. And I like their chances going into the final. How about that? 2 FCX teams meeting in the Class L final.
It could potentially be happening in the double L tournament of girls soccer as well. First, though, #3 St. Joe's in Class L, playing in the semifinals this afternoon. We like the Cadets in that one.
Oh, yeah.
Mazzo playing so well right now, too, coming off a game with 2 goals and 1 assist in the quarters. But the girls soccer double L semifinals. First up, let's start with the Lady Tigers of Ridgefield. They take on Glastonbury. Your thoughts on that game featuring Ridgefield?
The Tigers meet Glastonbury again. This time, this camera right here.
Here you go.
Here we go, Steve.
Camera 3, here we go.
You got to give the Tigers a good chance because I think what happened in the FCX tournament happened. They fell 1-0 to Staples in the semifinals. They've done a nice job of bouncing back. Again, this goes back to what we mentioned beginning part of the year. Middle part of the year, Ridgefield was one of the top teams in FCX girls soccer. No one expected that considering what they lost from the 2016 team. My goodness, I did not expect the Tigers to play this well. And again, Claire Middlebrook and Catherine Barlow are the rocks in that back four. Those 2 center backs are playing stellar right now. I really like this Tigers team. This is going to be a hard-fought battle. I expect this one to go to overtime, but going with my Tigers here.
On the other side, Darien and Staples. That's going to be a very exciting matchup. First time in program history, Darien will play in the state semifinals. So congratulations. Great job by this senior group, their leadership, and the team all together. What kind of a chance are you giving them against the FCX runner-up records?
I like the Darien Blue Wave right now. That game against Shelton, I thought they played great. That first half, a little slow. Second half, they were dominant. They take down the top seed. This Darien team is playing well right now. This is the furthest they've been in program history, Frank. Imagine if they can get one step further to that FCX final. How about that? Richfield and Darien get to meet each other again. I kind of like that matchup. I think the Tigers and the Blue Wave, maybe the Tigers and the Wreckers, but we'll see. I like the Blue Wave, though. They're playing well. Again, this is another matchup I think comes down to the wire. I like Blue Wave, though.
It's a really interesting matchup, and I want to say Staples. I really do. I am a big believer in the Wreckers right now, but I'm going to go with a number for you here, and it is 12. The number of shutouts Chrissy Fiore has posted this season, 12. I think that number hits 13, and they play in their first ever championship game. We're running out of time here, Kevin, but I do want to take a second. Let's look ahead to next Thursday. One of the matchups, and we'll do this each day now moving forward, one of the matchups that intrigues you most looking at the Turkey Bowl right now. What are you paying attention to?
Certainly we're looking forward to New Canaan Darien, but I think the one matchup that we're not going to see in person is Greenwich Staples. I really like that game.
Let me clarify again here. All right, let me specify now. Because I got news. Greenwich big. Greenwich big. Book it now. Okay. Now, inside the New Canaan Darien game, player on player, one side versus another, offense, defense, special teams. What are some of the things that stand out? What are one of the matchups within the game you're looking forward to?
Well, certainly I think off the bat, Frank, apologies for that, but
that's
again,
my fault. You got soccer on the mind like that.
I think certainly the one matchup that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about is Jack Joyce and Drew Pine. the quarterback matchup, I think, in this game. These are two players that aren't afraid to escape the pocket and get a good chunk of yards if they can. Certainly, we've seen Drew Pine be able to, get outside the pocket if he sees, some, defensive ends coming towards him. And I think I like how these two quarterbacks are composed at times, but when the pressure's there and when defenses are stepping up, they seem to get a little tense, and that's when you see them breaking out. And you got to worry about that a little bit. But again, I like this quarterback matchup between Jack Joyce and Drew Pine.
I agree. It's a very good matchup, and we're going to see both these quarterbacks use their feet, extend plays, extend drives, and they're going to look to get involved in the running game. I am looking forward to seeing what these two do in the passing game. Both defenses are going to bring pressure. If they're smart, their ends are going to be rush-contained guys. You're not allowed to duck inside. Quarterbacks cannot get outside of you. Force them to stay in the pocket. You go back to week 1 when New Canaan played St. Joe's. Pine, a little flustered when he was wrapped up in the pocket, running around almost recklessly, not protecting the football. Which one of these two young men can stand in the pocket for 4-5 seconds, allow receivers to break free of man-to-man coverage, and make big throws? I think that is the intriguing matchup in the quarterback battle that's going to get overlooked. They've both thrown the ball well all year. I think these will be the two best defenses they've seen. New Canaan has really come into its own now. The addition of Zach Miller in the secondary has almost brought that group together. Brian Minikis on the back end for Darien is one of the best safeties we've seen in a while. They're going to get pressure with their front four, and those linebackers stand in the pocket. The line's going to pick up the blitz. Trust that. Who can make the big throw? That is what I want to see. We're going to have plenty more coverage leading up to the Turkey Bowl on Thanksgiving morning. We'll also have a Chalk Talk session later on next week with John Kovac and myself. We might even let Kevin get on the board, maybe a little quiz time for our sideline man. We thank you again for joining us. Congrats to the Norwalk Bears. Unreal season for the boys. Congratulations to all of our All-FCX selections. For Kevin, I'm Frank. We'll see you tomorrow on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network.